Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and you read the title of this video correctly. Somehow, someway, Energy has not only managed to survive the banning of both Attune with Aether and Rogue Refiner, but it's managed to put together a deck that's still winning. I know this thing's like a cockroach. Totally unreal, but I got to admit, it's super fun to play. I love it. So I'm going to tell you about it because it's $20 and competitive. I'll be using TCG player pricing throughout the video to show you just how cheap it is. And if you want to get the deck yourself for the cost of a 2 for $20 dinner at Applebee's, you can click the first link in the description. Let's do this thing. As always, we'll begin with Servant of the Conduit. This insane elf druid is dang near perfect for any energy deck. Early drop gives you energy, mana ramps you, and color fixes for you. Full playset here legit does everything you want, cheap, efficient, powerful. In this deck, the Servant functions more like a rare than an uncommon if I'm being honest. It's a crazy good card, easy to include. Next up, to help replace the lost Attune with Aether, which is impossible by the way, is Sage of Shameless Claim. It doesn't get you a land and it's a 2-drop, but it does generate you a whole bunch of energy, and is a 2-power creature to battle on the ground early. Remember, we're in a standard meta chock full of aggro decks. Having something on the battlefield early to battle with is a good thing, and the Sage loves to trade because once it's entered the battlefield, it's done its job. 2 mana, 3 energy, 2 power, we good. The last 2-drop is Long Tusk Cub. You want to talk about absurd 2-drops in this deck? Long Tusk Cub has it all. If uncontested early, the Cub gets out of hand really quickly, building up a ton of free energy for you and outgrowing damage-based removal in the matter of a turn or two. The Cub is great at taking advantage of a slow start from your opponent, or a slower deck that's light on creatures. Can't say it enough, this is a bomb kitty. This deck fully embraces Greenbelt Rampager, and it serves a couple different purposes. First, it's a weird replacement for Attune with Aether at 1 mana. It doesn't get you a land, but it does get you an energy for your trouble. If you have nothing else to play, that's 1 energy you can store and use later. In addition, the Rampager is just a good, cheap, strong creature. At 3/4, it can stand up to most in the format, and it's very likely that you can play this without an issue on turn 3. It's great at absorbing early removal spells meant for your more dangerous creatures. It can apply pressure against an empty board, and can be a wall of thorns against aggro-heavy matchups. Greenbelt Rampager absolutely a staple in this deck now. It's solid stuff. Electrostatic Pummeler, I've said this a million times and I'll never stop. This card steals more games than any other right now. The question, do you have it, is asked and answered basically every time this construct hits the battlefield. And it's glorious! What makes this creature so powerful is that it can be up against the most expensive cards in the format, or the best cards in the format, and it can just blow right by them in an instant. And the best part, the energy bannings didn't hit any of the pump spells the Pummeler used to become broken as heck. Larger than life. By giving the Pummeler +4/+4, it's a 5/5 before you even activate its ability. 1 activation, it's a 10/10. 2, it's a 20/20, and it has trample. This brings us back to your opponent needing something to deal with it, because if they don't, they just straight up lose the game. And you've seen the creatures we have so far, Sage, Servant, Long Tusk Cub. You will have enough energy to activate this multiple times. The Pummeler takes care of the first activation all on its own. This is like child's play. In addition to larger than life, the Pummeler does need more insurance, so Blossoming Defense is an auto-include and one of the best cards in this entire deck. It's cheap, it's instant speed, and it gives a nice +2/+2 boost to your creature, but let's be real. The only reason it's so amazing is hexproof. Talk about a card perfectly designed for any deck with a Pummeler in it. There will be games where this deck functions like a combo deck. You put everything into your Pummeler. Blossoming Defense helps you protect that investment from all of the shenanigans. And at only a single green mana, you'll have enough resources to cast your other pump spells and hold this up no problem. It's one of the more expensive cards in the deck at a whopping $1, but trust me, you need this card. We're going to pivot back to creatures for a second because we can't forget about Bristling Hydra, one of the most disturbingly powerful creatures in all of Standard. I find it humorous beyond belief that this wasn't one of the banned cards in January, but I'll take it. It's 40 cents to stand toe-to-toe with basically anything else in the entire Standard format. Comes down as a 4/3, and with enough energy to protect itself from removal and get a +1/+1 counter in the process, that's a dumb card. This card is dumb, and will continue to be dumb until energy leaves Standard. With Blossoming Defense or Larger Than Life, it never dies, it just doesn't. Think about all the times you've been against a Bristling Hydra. If you don't have a board wipe and your opponent knows what they're doing, it's a nightmare. 40 cents a swole right here. We've got a few more saucy spells. Cartouche of Knowledge is up next, and my goodness, this little common goes the distance. It's cheap, it replaces itself in your hand, which is huge in a deck that needs card draw. It gives +1/+1 to whatever it enchants, and it grants flying. Imagine your giant pummeler and add wings. How terrifying is that? It's awesome. Or your Bristling Hydra flying through the sky like the flying spaghetti monster. It's just gorgeous. Long Tusk Cub makes it way easier to trigger that combat damage ability. You really only need a single hit with the cub to go nuts, so stick that cartouche right on there. All of these creatures make stellar targets for the cartouche. They all want evasion, they all want that boost in power, and you want more cards. It's a win-win-win. Even Greenbelt Rampager, no trigger, but it'll be a 4/5 with flying, a giant flying elephant. Welcome to Simic, I guess. Crazy kids, I love this deck. The last non-land card in the deck is probably my new favorite card, Donnas Climb. 3 mana for a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if that creature has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, transform the Climb. Alright, key things to note here. First, it gives counters, which is something your Bristling Hydra and Long Tusk Cub are very interested in. Second, it triggers at the beginning of combat on your turn, which means you can play this first main phase and get immediate value out of it. That's very important. Third, it only requires 3 +1/+1 counters to flip. It'll give you 1, then 2 activations of the Cub or Hydra, and you're in business. That's so easy. Even if it takes 2 turns, big whoop. If you don't have the Cub or Hydra, that's okay too. I'm sure the Rampager or Pummeler, or even the Servant would be happy to become a 4/5 or 2/2 or 3/3 respectively. It may not seem like a huge deal, but that's only until you see what it transforms into. Transforming from Donnas Climb is the Winged Temple of Araska. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, but more importantly, you can pay 3 mana, tap it, and target creature you control gains flying and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. Is this the dream? Are we even in reality? Donnas Climb was literally made for energy. They stuck the Pummeler's ability on a land and gave the creature flying too. And it's not like it's difficult to get to the Winged Temple. You need a creature with 3 +1/+1 counters in a deck that's powerful because of the creatures that gain +1/+1 counters so easily. Is this not what heaven is like? It feels like heaven, tastes like heaven, smells like heaven. Worried about not having enough energy to pump the Pummeler 800 times? The Winged Temple has your back. It's so beautiful. It's a work of art, truly. Man, I love Magic. The deck runs 23 lands in total, and it is absurdly consistent, even for a budget version. 4 Ether Hub is obviously the first auto-include, mana fixing, free energy, no-brainer. After the hub, the non-basics are Hashep Oasis, a full playset, and Woodland Stream, 3 of. The Oasis is an additional pump spell for any of your creatures when they're on the defensive, or a way to get your Pummeler train started. Never hurts to have backup plans. Add 8 forests and 4 islands, and you have the cheap and efficient mana base. We've seen versions of energy decks for over a year now, but with a Tune and Refiner band, many thought it was the end of the deck. That is so incredibly untrue. You have a ton of power early game with Greenbelt Rampager and Long Tusk Cub, accompanied by Servant of the Conduit and the Sage for any of your energy needs. Getting a board presence and stacking that energy early is a top priority, so don't be shy with those early drops. You know they're going to target your Pummeler, so dropping it when you can protect it isn't a bad idea. Of course, that target priority can also be used to your advantage. If you have redundant copies of the Pummeler, or you want to keep your Bristling Hydra safe, drop those Pummelers. You know they're going to absorb top tier removal. Save your Blossoming Defense until you absolutely need to save a high priority creature. Use your cartouches aggressively, even on a Long Tusk Cub, that can put your opponent on the back foot real fast. Don't go all in on your Pummeler unless your opponent is tapped out, or you have enough mana to pump the Pummeler and have Blossoming Defense backup. If you need to, bide your time. Use your other threats to drain their removal. Be patient, pay attention to their mana, and you're going to win so many games. Let's talk sideboard. The best part about running blue is that you have great board options as far as counterspells are concerned. Spell Pierce, Negate, Essence Scatter. Spell-heavy decks can be a bit of a wet blanket for you, so bringing in some counterspells to protect your investment, never a bad idea. Deathgorge Scavenger is basically amazing against gift decks. Those can be real annoying, or anything that utilizes the graveyard. Rekindling Phoenix can just be real pest. Yeah, play the Scavenger. Card is great. Lastly, Confiscation Coup can be quite powerful. It synergizes with your massive energy gain, and to be honest, it'll let you control magic on any artifact or creature you want. the Scarab God, or any god really, Gear Hulks. You get the point. You can't fight something, just, steal it. The Kaladesh dream, am I right? Blue-green energy is $20. It's efficient, it's powerful, it can fight the rest of the standard format, and it's super fun to play. Seems like an easy decision to me. If you're still on the fence about standard right now and you don't know where to go or what to play, $20 and you can play this competitive deck. This deck can win FNM. It does win. It has won. It will continue to win. If you're interested, click the first link in the description. You will not be disappointed. And as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.